Apparently, they had filed for divorce already by the time they told me about it, and my parents had decided that they couldn't live together anymore because my dad was just too overwhelmed with everything. What exactly was overwhelming him, I had no idea. He didn't even say goodbye to me in person. He texted me one last time after he moved out and told me to be good. That was it. I didn't see him after that, and soon enough, my parents were separated. Since my state doesn't have a long waiting period, my mother got to keep the house and had full custody of my brother and me. My dad did have visiting rights, but he hasn't put them to use so far, so I don't know what's up with that. As if that wasn't bad enough, about 2 months ago, my mother told me that she had been dating this guy, let's call him Robert, for almost 3 months. They were in love, and she didn't want to waste her time since she was not getting any younger, and that's why they had gotten engaged. I barely had any time to process that my mother was seeing somebody new when she told me that she was engaged and that this person was going to be my stepdad. It was just a lot to take in, and I was really not happy about it because I thought 5 months was too short a time to get to know what kind of person her fiancé was. But she told me not to worry about it. She introduced me to him 2 weeks later, and he seemed really closed off and aloof with me. However, he behaved quite differently with my brother and was very playful with him. At the time, I only thought it was because my brother was just 4 years old, so it was probably easier to be more playful with him. But a couple of weeks later, my mother told me something that completely changed my perspective on both of them. 2 weeks back, my mother told me to sit down with her and informed me that the reason her fiancé and she got engaged so quickly was because he had been offered a really great position, and he was about to take it up. But for that, they would have to move away and live out of state. They intended on leaving me here with my grandmother because she didn't think that I would want to leave everything behind with them. However, I told her that I would be fine with moving away if it meant that I would get to stay with my mom because I had already had my dad walk out on me. I didn't want the same with my mother as well. But she tried to convince me that it was a bad idea because my school was here, all my friends were here, and I was happier here. But I insisted on accompanying her. Eventually, she just blurted it out. She wanted me to stay back because Robert only wanted my brother to come along with them since he was young and could still build a good relationship with him. But I was too old, and I would never be his daughter in the true sense. Apparently, he had not liked the fact that I had tried to tell my mother that 5 months was too quick to be engaged to somebody she didn't even know properly. He thought that I was still stuck mentally in the time that my mother and father were married and wouldn't be able to adjust to him. My mother believed the same, which is why she wanted me to stay and figure out my life on my own. I was really hurt by this opinion of hers because if nobody else, at least I expected my mother to be on my side and not abandon me just because Robert wanted her to. It's not that I had any issue living with my grandmother, she's a wonderful person, and I really love her, but I also love my mom, so I was really hurt. I tried to argue with her, but it was just not worth it. So I told her that I didn't want to wait until they moved away, I wanted to move in with my grandmother that day itself. Of course, it was not possible for the move to be arranged that day, but within a few days, I was packed and ready to move out. My mother tried to convince me that she still loved me, but this was just her looking out for herself because she really loved me and wanted to give herself a shot at happiness. For the last couple of days I spent at home, I did not even speak to my mother, and I did not even say goodbye to her on the day that I left. To be honest, I did not think it was worth it, and the only person that I actually said goodbye to was my little brother because I was definitely going to miss him. Since then, I have been living with my grandma, and she has been very empathetic. My grandma, for the record, is my mother's mom. I have absolutely no relationship with my other grandparents, which is not surprising because they barely even had a relationship with my father. She has been exceptionally kind and caring, and life has been pretty easy so far with her because she really seems to love me, and she thinks that what my mother is doing is horrible. Apart from the time it takes for me to get to and back from school, everything is pretty great here. I keep in touch with my brother, and I call my mom every evening just to speak to him. We don't speak to each other even then. 3 days back, I celebrated my birthday at home. To be fair, I did not organize the party, it was my grandma. She invited a couple of my close friends from school by stalking me on Facebook and some selective relatives. It was a huge surprise to me, and it kind of cheered me up because I had been feeling really low after my mother dropped me off here. After we cut the cake, though, my grandmother announced the gift that she had for me, and that was a huge surprise. She told me that, for now, her lawyer is going to act as the trustee for the property, but as soon as I turn 18, it's all mine. That was the best bit of news that I had received in quite some time, and I had no intention of sharing it with my mother. But yesterday, I got to know that she had been told about this gift that I received from my grandmother, probably by someone at the party, I don't know who, and it doesn't matter now. But I was really annoyed when she called me up last evening to tell me that she had heard about the gift that my grandmother was giving me, and after speaking to Robert, they had decided that he wanted to adopt me, as long as I convinced my grandmother to transfer the ownership of that property to him. I don't know why, but she actually expected me to be happy about this news because now I could finally come along with them. I was actually not happy at all, and I told her that I would not be doing anything of the sort, and there was no need for her to call me anymore. Then I hung up. But she called me again after a couple of minutes, but this time, I didn't even pick up. Then she texted me, and here is the text that she sent. I'm really sorry if you felt bad that I was trying to play by Robert's rules and live life on his terms, but you need to understand that after your dad and I got divorced, he was the only person who was really there for me. Of course, I had my family to support me, but that's different. He was there for me emotionally and even financially. You don't know about it because I have never let you feel it or even spoken to you about it because I don't want you to think negatively of your father, but he's not exactly a very generous man. The settlement and alimony that I'm receiving from him are absolutely dismal, and the child support is ridiculously low. I hope you haven't forgotten that your father was actually the primary breadwinner of our family, not me. I'm lucky that he left the house to me because otherwise, I probably wouldn't even have been able to afford rent. Our lifestyle has always been very expensive, you know that. I never had to worry about money when I was with your father, but after he left, things changed, and I couldn't let you feel that. But even after picking up extra shifts at work, I couldn't match your father's income. When I started dating Robert, he was the one who was there for me, he was the one who stepped up. I know that he has not exactly been kind to you, but that's just because he has had past relationships where children have become a bone of contention and eventually led to a breakup.